Hi everyone, this is the first lecture for the nervous system, and the question we're answering today is how does the nervous system carry out its functions in an organized way? By the end of this lecture, you should be able to answer that question using all of the vocabulary that you see on the right. And this part of the lecture is going to cover the two items in content on the left side of this slide. So we're going to talk about the functions of the nervous system, which are input of information coming from either your own body or from outside your body. Integration, meaning when the brain processes that information, and then output, which is what the brain causes your body to do in response to that information. We're also going to talk about organization of the nervous system, so that's the second part of this lecture. And the nervous system is organized into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is then subcategorized according to what type of information is being carried by the neurons. So is sensory information being carried, or is motor information being carried? And then the motor subdivision is further classified according to what type of response you're going to get as a result. So are you going to get a voluntary or an automatic response? Are you going to go into fight or flight mode or rest and digest mode? Let's start with the functions. The three major functions of the nervous system are receiving sensory input, integrating that information or processing it, and then producing a motor output, which means a appropriate response. By the way, my kids are in the house with me, so you're probably going to hear them in the background, like right now. Okay, so let's talk about receiving sensory input. This is where your neurons, your receptors, are going to gather information by monitoring changes or stimuli from both inside and outside the body. So a stimulus might be something like it's really cold outside. And so you're going to feel that cold. Or another one might be, your stomach is cramping for some reason. The second function is integration of that input. So let's say that your stomach is cramping. Well, then the receptors that are in your stomach muscle wall are going to send pain signals up neurons to your brain, and your brain is going to interpret those signals as pain, and then is going to process it and try to figure out like what is going on, what should I do next. And so hopefully for most of you, your brain is going to process that information and decide, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And so that's going to then trigger the brain to send out a motor output. Motor output meaning the signals that carry out a response that was decided by integration in the brain. And that response is usually carried out by either muscles to produce movement of some kind, or by glands to secrete things like hormones or sweat or other things like that, as an appropriate response to whatever the initial stimulus was that first came into the system. So your motor output in the case of you having like stomach cramps or tummy aches, your brain is going to integrate that and decide you need to go to the bathroom. And so the motor output will then go to your muscles to coordinate all of the muscles of your body to allow you to get up, walk over to the bathroom, and do what you need to do in the bathroom to take care of that problem. So you remember this from the introductory unit when we were talking about homeostasis. There are 5 elements to a homeostatic response mechanism. So the first is you're going to have a sensory receptor like in your eyes or in your skin or on your tongue that is going to send a sensory input to the brain. The brain is then going to integrate or process that information and determine the appropriate response, which then gets sent out. That's your motor output to your effector organs, which are your muscles. Oh, I should have used my mouse, but here's your effector organ. Okay. So next, let's talk about organization of the nervous system. When we talk about organization, we're going to talk about both structural and functional ways that all of the nerves and your brain are organized. So first of all, structural organization is are the parts of the nervous system structurally in the middle of your body, or are they out on the edges, like towards the periphery of your body? And so there are only 2 parts of the nervous system that are in the middle of your body that make up the central nervous system, and they are the brain, which you see right here, and the spinal cord, which you see here. So they may make up the axial line.
Mama,
Hi,
who
Tina.
are you talking?
I'm talking to students. I'm talking to high school students. So you have to be very quiet. Shh. Okay. The rest of the nerves in your body that radiate out from your spinal cord to, your limbs and things like that, they all make up the peripheral nervous system. Where remember, periphery means it's out on the edges. And the peripheral nerves either are going to bring information from like your fingers or your toes or whatever up to your spinal cord and then to your brain. Timo, 너무 시끄러워. Shh. Okay, 조용히 해. So they're going to either bring sensory information up to your brain, which means that they make up what we call the sensory or afferent division, or they're going to send information from your brain out to all of the muscles or glands in your body, and those make up what we call the motor or efferent division. So these are obviously vocabulary words, where the word afferent means information is going towards the central nervous system, and then efferent is going to mean that impulses are going away from or they're exiting the central nervous system. If we just talk about the second division of the peripheral nervous system, the motor division, we can classify what type of motor response you're going to get according to whether that response is voluntary or involuntary. And so the neurons, the motor neurons that basically trigger contraction or relaxation of the skeletal muscles that you have control over, those make up the somatic nervous system. And then the motor neurons that trigger contraction or relaxation of things like your heart muscle or your glands, or like the muscles of your stomach or your intestines, you don't have control over how those work and when they happen. And so those are called involuntary motor responses, and those motor neurons that trigger them make up what we call the autonomic nervous system. Hopefully you can remember that, because autonomic sounds like automatic. And so automatic, these things happen on their own without your conscious control. They're involuntary. So here you can see on this right image, we've got the peripheral nervous system shown off to the sides, right here, and in your legs as well. And then the majority of the autonomic nervous system, the motor neurons that go out from the spinal cord to innervate the involuntary muscle and gland responses, you'll notice that most of those are concentrated along your core. So this is where your visceral organs, also known as your vital organs, right? This is where your visceral organs are. So that means your heart, your stomach, your pancreas, your intestines. You have no control over how those work. They just simply work because your brain automatically or autonomically controls them. On the other hand, so those are shown in red, that's the autonomic nervous system. On the other hand, the rest of your muscles, the ones that you do have control over, those motor neurons that innervate those muscles are shown in blue, and they make up the somatic nervous system. And so the muscles of your arm, your hands, your legs, as well as like your neck and things like that, those motor neurons make up the somatic nervous system division of the peripheral nervous system, where once again the words central and peripheral nervous systems refer to structural classifications of how your nervous system is structured, and the words somatic and autonomic refer to functional classification. And then over here you can see these are all of the different organs that are innervated by the autonomic nervous system, or the automatic involuntary subdivision of the motor nervous system. So things like your eyes, your, I don't know what that is, your blood vessels, your heart, your intestines, your stomach, those are all pictured here. And we're going to learn more about them way later on in this unit. How do these the somatic and autonomic nervous systems control your muscles? It's a really similar mechanism. So here you have a cross-section of the spinal cord right here. So just imagine that we just took your spinal cord and sliced a small chunk of it. And what you would see is in this gray area in the middle, this is where you would find the body of your motor neuron right there. And then it would send this long extension out to your muscles right here, triggering those muscles to contract or relax according to what your brain has told it to do. Down here, you can see that similarly for the autonomic nervous system, it's a very similar function or very similar way it works, right? You've got the body of the motor neuron here, just trapped in the spinal cord, and then it sends out this long extension, which then just connects with another neuron right here, which then sends out another long extension, which then triggers the release of chemicals that then cause your muscles, your smooth muscle or cardiac muscle, to contract. The autonomic nervous system has two subdivisions. So this is the one where we're just talking about the automatic functions that are controlled by your brain without you having conscious thought or control over it. And we're going to further classify the autonomic nervous system functionally according to what type of response are you going to get from your organs. You might either get the parasympathetic response, which is rest and digest activities, or you might get the sympathetic response, which are fight and flight activities. And so basically, are you under stress or not? If you are not under stress, like maybe you're just chilling on the couch and you're watching Netflix and you're eating some popcorn, then you're going to have these responses here. So your eyes are going to kind of like relax. You don't need to be on the watch for danger. You're going to stimulate the flow of saliva, your heartbeat is going to slow, your breathing is going to slow because you don't really need a lot of oxygen. You don't need to feed your muscles, you just are chilling. Over here, you're going to stimulate digestion, and then you're going to contract the bladder so that, if you need to pee, you can just get up and go pee. On the other hand, let's say that you are under stress, like you're being chased by a lion, or you have a track meet, or you have a big test, then that's going to trigger this sympathetic response. Notice that the effectors are all of the same organs that you would get with the parasympathetic response, but the effects are different. So you're under stress. You're going to dilate your pupils so that as much light can come in so that you can look around and get as much information as possible. You're going to inhibit saliva and digestion, and you're going to inhibit your bladder so that you're not going to be thinking about using the bathroom in this moment. You're going to be thinking about like meeting the challenge that's in front of you. Your heartbeat is going to go up. Your breathing rate is going to go up, so that you can increase oxygen to your muscles so that your muscles can be ready to fight for you or to run for you or whatever it is that you're asking them to do. So here are the three key takeaways from this unit. The first is, what are the functions of the nervous system? Sensory input, bring in information. Then you process that information, and then you produce the appropriate motor output. Second of all, you should know how the nervous system is organized. So structurally, it's organized into your central nervous system, meaning your brain and spine, and your peripheral nervous system, which is everything else. And then the peripheral nervous system is further categorized according to whether you're bringing in information, so that's the sensory division, you're getting an input, or whether you're sending out information, so that's the motor division or output. And then the motor output is then further subcategorized according to its effects on the body under different circumstances. Now at this point, what I'd like you to do is go back to this first question here, and in your own words, just to yourself, answer this question using these vocabulary.